Listen up, you guppies! The enemy is evolving and invading our lands. The time to strike is now! We need you to deploy our elite force of mosquito fish and neutralize the enemy. Mosquitoes will breed in many backyard-standing water bodies such as green swimming pools, ponds, and fountains. Mosquito fish are a natural method of control and will stop the enemy before they evolve into fully fledged fighting machines. This will reduce the mosquito population and promote safer communities for all of Hillsborough County residents. Report to htfl.gov/mosquitoes for more information on how you can prevent mosquitoes. Good luck, guppies. Make me proud.
According to the National Geographic, ocean plastic is estimated to kill millions of marine animals and seabirds every year. And scientists predict that by 2050, plastic will outweigh the number of fish in the entire ocean. Plastics often break down into smaller and smaller particles, called microplastics, which can be ingested by both animals and people and remain in our environment for hundreds of years or longer. Here are a few helpful tips on how you can help stop the tide on plastic pollution. Tip 1. Bring reusable bags when grocery shopping. Tip 2. Avoid using plastic straws or use reusable straws when having a drink. Tip 3. Drink from a reusable water bottle instead of buying individual bottles. Tip 4. Tell your friends and family about the effects of single-use plastics. You can help reduce the amount of single-use plastics by spreading the word and going green. For more information and to take the pledge, visit reduceyourusetamaBay.org.
morning, everyone. Welcome to the meeting of the Circuit 13 Juvenile Justice Circuit Advisory Board. I'm Rocky Brancato, the chair. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And we will have Madam Secretary take roll.
Good morning, everyone. Please respond when you hear your name. Travis Coy,
Good morning. Here.
Mr. Rocky Brancato,
Here.
Ms. Gina Justice.
Judy Royston for Gina Justice.
Thank you. Ms. Beth Pasick. Here. Captain Michael Kutner. Lieutenant Robin Polk. Here. Commissioner Donna Cepeda. Present. Ms. Chrissy Dorian. Conchita Canty-Jones. Ms. Laura Byrne. Reverend Dr. Glenn Dames Jr. Ms. Sarah Grimmick. Markesh Thomas. Ms. Yvonne Fry, I have you here. Ms. Pam Jeffrey.
Here.
Ms. Kimberly Williams.
Here.
And myself. And Mr. Rob Parkinson.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to acceptance of the March 2024 minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes?
I have, and I move to approve.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Yvonne Fry. Thank you. And I want to take just a point of personal privilege and go out of order here because I have to get to another event, and Mr. Parkinson will take over. But I want to move to the new business, the committee substitute House Bill 1425. There's going to be a presentation by Chief Hammersley, but I want to talk about some of the changes that are going to occur with the Juvenile Justice Board. And I just want to give a preface. I believe in transparency. And so I want to give a little history about at least my term on the board. And so when Secretary Hall took over as the Secretary of the Department of Juvenile Justice, he had some directives to bring the community advisory boards in line with the statutes, and that meant that the terms were limited. It meant that we had to build a full board because we didn't have a member of the Faith Committee, we didn't have a juvenile justice involved family member, and we were short on some other areas. And so we looked at that and brought the board into compliance with the statutes. And early on in his administration, we had community advisory board liaisons who helped steer us. And we had meetings, statewide meetings of the CAB boards to receive his directions and try to put those in order. Probably about a year and a half ago, 2 years, that all stopped. We no longer had a liaison. We no longer had communication from the Department of Juvenile Justice. And I am putting this out there because I want the community to know, I'm not complaining, but I want the community to know that the changes that are coming to the CAB, we didn't know about. In fact, this would not be on the agenda today, but for my checking to see if this bill passed. But there's been zero communication with the CAB chairs about it. And there are significant changes that are being made. Why the changes are being made, I don't know. And it is my hope that someone at the appropriate level within Juvenile Justice Department will be able to explain to us the big picture reason why the changes are made. So this will be my last meeting as chair of the board. The chair will, under the new law that was passed, will transition over to the chief probation officer. There's going to be a couple people who are cut off the boards as well. The Community Youth Serving Coalition and the business members. Two of those are going to be reduced. So I wanted it to be transparent. I know people are watching this at home, and I don't want them to think that we knew about this, because we did not. Mr. Parkinson has prepared a summary of some of the changes as it pertains to the board that are in the agenda. And Mr. Parkinson, would you like to outline some of those?
I think it would be apropos for Chief Probation Officer Hammersley to discuss them.
Okay.
She has a presentation, and then afterwards we can talk about some of the more profound changes. There's some things in there that make great sense, and I think that this group would have supported along the entire way. There's some things that we didn't know about. There's some things that this is a committee substitute, obviously. So I think it would be apropos for her to start, and then
Sounds good. We'll give the floor to Chief Hammersley.
Okay, gentlemen. Should I start with our PowerPoint or go through the HB 1425? Preference?
They're kind of interrelated, because there are some things in HB 1425 that don't deal with the board. So I'll leave that to you.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and just go into it with the House Bill 1425. As you see on the agenda today, and thank you, Chairperson Brancato, for putting that on there. It specifies many of the items as we move forward effective July 1st, which transfers the responsibility of establishing appropriate community service programs available to the alternative sanctions coordinators of the circuit courts from the CABs to DJJ. It removes the responsibility for CABs to propose the implementation of community service programs to their respective circuits and to submit circuit plans. It requires a sheriff's office that receives funds to operate a juvenile assessment center to provide an annual written financial report accounting for all funds to DJJ instead of to a CAB. In Hillsborough County, Department of Juvenile Justice does not provide funding to the sheriff's office to provide juvenile assessment services. That's a side note. Requiring the Public Safety Coordinating Council of a county to collaborate with DJJ rather than the CAB when developing a comprehensive public safety plan that includes programs and services for juveniles. Earlier this morning, we did have the meeting with the Public Safety Coordinating Council, where this information was shared as well. Requires CABs to work with the Chief Probation Officer of the circuit in using data to inform policy and practice that will improve the juvenile justice continuum. Removes authorization for county organizations, as you see on the next page, and then it lists the following duties from the CABs that will be removed. That includes developing a comprehensive plan, participating in interagency cooperation and information sharing, developing and implementing circuit interagency agreements, providing recommendations for public and private grants, and providing an annual report of the board's activity. It requires the membership of the board to be approved by the Chief Probation Officer of the circuit, and as previously stated, reduces the number of members on the board by 2 by reducing the number of the community leader and youth serving coalition members required from 5 to 3. Likewise, it requires the Chief Probation Officer of the circuit to serve as the chair of the board, and removes provisions relating to procedures to fill a vacant chair position, board membership terms, bylaw, quorum, and voting requirements, establishment of an executive committee, and requirements that CABs are subject to the Code of Ethics for public officers and employees. Requires the Chief Probation Officer in each circuit to submit proposals for innovation zones rather than the boards, and removes the requirements for the boards to review applications for community juvenile justice partnership grants. Likewise, allows for recommendations from community stakeholders to direct which grant proposals should be given priority. And finally, removes the requirement that grant recipients submit an annual evaluation report to the CAB. And on behalf of this, new changes that we see forthcoming, the Department of Juvenile Justice has training curriculum for all the chief probation officers statewide through our Office of Talent, Leadership, and Culture. So we are currently in the process of receiving that training in regards to our new role as chairperson of the community advisory boards. And likewise, Chair Mr. Brancato and co-chair Mr. Parkinson have been in communication with me, and Chair Brancato has given me many of the information documents that I'll need moving forward. So as of today, I don't have any answers as far as what it's going to look like until I've received that training. All of us chiefs have received that training to where we're on good footing for July 1st.
Chief Hammersley, are you able to tell us any of the big picture reasons why the change was made?
No, at this point I cannot. As I go through this PowerPoint, at the statewide advisory group meeting that was held on April 22nd, Secretary Hall provided this presentation, but the backstory on why these changes, no. I will say that Secretary Hall is going to each and every circuit, and currently his tentative dates for coming to Circuit 13 to meet with the judicial stakeholders is the end of June. Location and time has not been determined at this point. This meeting is with juvenile judges, the chief judge, leadership from the Public Defender's Office, State Attorney's Office, and all law enforcement entities, leadership in Hillsborough County. So he will be able to elaborate further, not just on this presentation, but by then he may have a newer presentation, and that's where he's going to be able to have that dialogue to give those in-depth answers similar to the question you've just asked.
Okay. And, just for the record, I'm going to do whatever you ask to help support you in the transition. I've provided you already with everything that I think that will be helpful to you, the templates, the different things that we do when we order awards and that type of stuff. And I'm here to help make that transition as smooth as possible. It is a rather large job. I know you already had a rather large job, but I wanted to make sure I was provided factual information to the people and to let everyone know I'm going to support your transition. Does anyone have any questions from Chief Hammersley about the changes to the Community Advisory Board at this time?
First of all, thank you for your presentation. Appreciate it. I know it was as thorough as you can be given the information that we've received out of Tallahassee at this juncture. So this bill actually goes into effect on July 1. So we are currently in May. So that means typically we would have an executive committee meeting next month. Should we cancel it because there's not going to be an executive committee coming July 1? So that's my first question. Secondly, since the bylaws will no longer be in effect, the bylaws that we've created as a group, you're going to be the chair, there's not going to be a vice chair, there's not going to be a secretary. And I know Chair Brancato has gotten all those materials over to you so you can get ready for your administrative functions. What do you need from us to help with the transition?
Well, first and foremost, I would leave that to the current board members to decide to have that executive board meeting next month. And secondly, I don't know the actual diagnostics as far as, are we eliminating a secretary to take minutes? I don't know. Are we eliminating a co-chair?
The vice chair and the secretary positions are outlined in the bylaws. They're not part of statute. The statute requires each local group to come up with their own bylaws, which we have done and subsequently amended to adhere to statutory changes.
Understood. So that is a conversation that I would have when I'm receiving my training and my guidance from my leadership, department's leadership, on how it is that overseeing and taking on this new responsibility and all the caveats.
Mr. Parkinson, if I could say one thing about the executive meeting, we do have currently a presenter that is scheduled to present at the executive meeting. I think it would be good to go ahead and let the presenter present. And Ms. Hammersley may have, Chief Hammersley may have some more guidance at that time as far as what she wants to prepare for her first meeting in July, and we could be there to support her. So I would suggest that we keep it going.
And then the other operational details, the Board of County Commissioners has provided meeting space and a televised broadcast and viewing on YouTube for the meeting. Is that something that you're going to still need or require? Are you going to move the meetings to your office? Have you discussed that?
I do not have any answer for you at this time. I honestly do not. As far as location and all that, we know that it's very difficult to secure locations monthly.
So
as far as the
Chairperson
department.
Brancato has booked this room for the rest of the year and the Chief Judge's conference room for Executive Committee. So do you want to just keep that for now? Keep those booked?
I would appreciate that consideration, yes.
Ms. Laraboy?
So my questions were in line with Mr. Parkinson's. Does the membership of the board remain the same, or will that be re-evaluated?
Honestly, Davey, I do not have an answer for you at this time, unfortunately.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the membership? Yes, Ms. Grimmick.
I just have a question regarding, if I understand this correctly, it's at the discretion of the chief probation officer to align that, what sounds like might be a new group, but hopefully some of the same faces. But until we get direction, can we continue to operate in the manner that we're operating? Because don't we have people scheduled to present in July as well?
We do, and I've given that list to Chief Hammersley. Now, there's some things that haven't changed, like, for instance, I'll still be on the board no matter what because I'm the designee of the public defender. Mr. Coy will still be on the board because he's the designee of the state attorney. Captain Krittner will still be on the board because he's the designee of the sheriff. And so there's certain statutory positions that have an automatic position on the board. So we're still here to serve. The makeup outside of that it could be different.
So I guess the better question is, until we have real clarity from the Secretary's office, are we going to be outside of statute to operate with new leadership in similar fashion, looking at bylaws again, which we just did, if that's the discretion so that you could get a grip on kind of all of the moving parts of this? Do we think that that's something that's going to function at least through this transition?
Right. They're in effect until July 1st. And my reading of it is that there's not going to be bylaws. It might be an administrative procedure set by the Department of Juvenile Justice.
And we could no longer have bylaws.
Yeah, they're eliminated per the statute. So I think it will be more administrative procedure, frankly, my vote is that we have our executive meeting, and those who normally attend will attend, and let's support Chief Hammersley. I don't think she was in Tallahassee lobbying for this.
In your free time, right?
In many ways, she's Hermes here. She's the messenger.
Right.
So let's not beat her up. The Community Advisory Board serves an important purpose, and everyone comes together for good things. And we're doing some good things, like, for instance, on civil citations. We're going to be moving the needle and that type of stuff. So hopefully, what we learn is that there's going to continue to be transparency, that there's going to be some changes, but not many. I'm hoping that's what it is. We just have to have the person who can give us that information. But I see no reason till July 1st, and that's going to give Chief Hammersley time to learn, some of the initiatives and marching orders and get that back to us. So that would be the best I can do. I've read the law part of it, and, you know, certain parts are very clear. Many of us are going to stay on simply because of our position, and, you know, that's up to whatever executive we serve, like the public defender or state attorney.
Great. Okay, my last comment is, but previously the secretary came down and had some open forum with communities. If you have the chance, could we ask for that conversation to have some sort of clarity in this transition while he's here?
Yes, and I understand that totally. As I said earlier, he is going to have that meeting face-to-face with the judicial stakeholders, and from what my conversation has been earlier this morning, that is going to be brought up to him as the availability to have, even if it means coming to our community advisory board. He's very keen on that, and he wants to be part of that. I know that he is attempting to have a meeting with Commissioner Cameron Spada. He wants to have a dialogue with you regarding some detention center, what have you, and some other issues that might be of concern to you. But he just wants to, you know, be part of the conversation as it relates to Hillsborough County situations. So I'll share that information, absolutely.
Any other questions from the board before we move on to the presentation of the remaining parts of legislative changes?
Thank you. I'm sorry. I just want to ditto what you said, which is that let's just support Chief and let her get her orders, and then, once she has clarity, she can come back to the group and let us know what that clarity is. But until then, we just support her wholeheartedly. I think it's fair to say that she's learning her way, navigating her way through this process as well. So I think it's safe to say you have our full support.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Agreed. Thank you, Reverend Dames.
Okay, well, I'm going to do a very brief overview of this presentation. And as I stated earlier, when the secretary does come to have that meeting, he may use this presentation or a more updated one, since this was created for the State Advisory Group prior to the bills being signed. So it just goes through our 2024 session highlights as far as our proposed budget for our staff, for our full-time employees, and then the priority agency bills, House Bill 1181 and 1425, and some of the key amendments that were adopted: minor in possession of a firearm, use of canines, and educational alignment. The 2024 session highlights, as you can see here, looking at Hillsborough Detention Center replacement, the general revenue that's anticipated for that, residential bed increase, SINS-FINS contract increase, probation contractor pay increase. That means our contracted providers that provide probation services, replacement of motor vehicles, IT infrastructure replacement, and the JJS modernization study. So as we look at the session highlights for House Bill 1181, is to increase and enhance accountability for firearm offenses, probation, conditional release, introduction of contraband into juvenile facilities, and encourages the use of pre-arrest citation programs as a tool for immediate accountability for delinquent behavior. And as we move forward, minor in possession of a firearm, the changes that we will see is that a minor in possession is eligible for residential commitment as a misdemeanor offense, and arrest without a warrant is permissible if there is probable cause for a minor in possession. Conditional release will replace PCP. We will no longer be using that effective July 1st. Youth that are committed to a residential program for a gun offense will be on conditional release for a period of 1 year following the release, with electronic monitoring for the initial 6 months of conditional release. And lastly, use of canines contraband, giving the department authority to utilize canine units to locate and seize contraband on the grounds of a DJJ residential or detention facility. And contraband items added are currency and traditional tobacco products. All introduction of contraband is a second-degree felony. Well, will be a second-degree felony. As we go further through the House bill, it requires detention until the adjudicatory hearing for specified serious gun offenses If the adjudicatory hearing has not been completed by 60 days, the court will hold detention status review hearings each successive 7-day period. Continues on to list a child with a firearm offense, excluding minor in possession, who is not committed to residential, must serve 30 days in detention, a minimum of 1 year probation, and 100 hours of community service or paid work. Arrests for violating terms of electronic monitoring or supervised release will result in their secure detention until the detention hearing, and that's considered the first appearance, which is the next day. And likewise, an arrest for a VOP, not including a new law violation, will result in secure detention for up to 21 days while the state attorney reviews the violation. If the state attorney will be recommending residential commitment, the child may be held in detention for an additional 21 days. And lastly, adjudication cannot be withheld a second time for a specified firearm offenses, and the child must be committed to a DJJ residential program. Civil citation, renames civil citation to delinquency citation, and requires the department to submit a report of entities that do not utilize delinquency citations more than 70% of the time for first-time offenses that are eligible. And as you can see here, it lists additional effects of House Bill 1181. Session highlights for House Bill 1425, which requires, the renaming of facilities. Non-secure becomes moderate risk residential. Juvenile correctional facility or juvenile prison becomes maximum risk. Removes minimum risk non-residential. We will no longer have that statewide effective July 1st. And then educational alignment, just going through some of the bullets on this, repeals the common assessment requirement and allows district to select assessments for program entry and exit. Adds reference to the Strengthening Career and Technical Education for the 21st Century Act. Removes references to CAPE and replaces with Career and Technical Education. Continuation, the CABs, as we previously discussed. Chief Probation Officer, the chair of the CAB. Reduction of community members from 5 to 3. And the elimination of required comprehensive reports and other administrative roles of the CABs, and shift some of these responsibilities onto the department. And the additional changes regarding the juvenile assessment centers, youth must always be medically cleared prior to their admission into the juvenile center. So this clarifies that they cannot be brought in if they need medical attention or under the influence of drugs or alcohol or in a state of mental health crisis. Specifies that a transfer to or from secure detention and supervised release is done by motion of the court, the child, or the state. And I think we're near the end here, folks. House Bill 7021, I'll let you review that. That's mental health and substance abuse. That the legal custodian can receive Baker Act records of a youth before, during, and after being treated by a Baker Act facility. House Bill 49, employment and curfew of minors. House Bill 7063, anti-human trafficking. And Senate Bill 674, United States produce iron and steel in public work projects, as this relates to the cost for our facilities, as far as even the Hillsborough Regional Detention Center, how much of that will impact the budget for that facility. That's that. I will make sure that the chair has this PowerPoint to you where you can provide that to our members today.
Okay, we do have it, and we'll put it out. And do we have questions from the board? Ms. Pasek? Okay, we'll get it sent out. Other questions? Seems like some significant changes. I don't know that they're going to impact youth in a positive way that reduces recidivism or increases public safety, but we will see.
Thank you.
Just a couple comments. Thank you, Chief Hammersley. We do appreciate you. I know it's frustrating being the messenger of some of these changes. but we value, we appreciate you, we really appreciate your collaborative problem solving that you're always willing to engage in. For the rest of the group, I just want you to know that we've had some legislation in the last few years that have resulted in increased detention days at our juvenile detention facility. And these statutory changes are going to mean more kids are going to stay in detention for longer periods of time. And in July, the DJJ will be sending the county their new estimates for detention billing, and those costs are undoubtedly going to be significantly higher than they are now. And as a reminder, one of the reasons that the county has committed funding to a lot of our diversion and reentry programs over the years is because we were able to present a business argument that we're reducing costs here, so it makes sense to spend them on this side. So I just want you to know that as we get that math, or those numbers, that's going to go into the math. Again, thank you, Chief Emerson.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, then I will turn the meeting over to Mr. Parkinson.
Thank you. So we'll go ahead and go on to committee reports, starting with Director Royston on the data-driven subcommittee.
Okay, good morning, everyone. So we met on May 13th. We do have a draft report that is in place, but we're still exploring options. We have a couple more meetings that need to take place. But I just want to thank all the committee members. We've had some member changes due to promotions. Everybody had to get up to speed, but they gave great insight. And I think, as Chair Brancato said, I think we can move the needle after this gets done. We have some good ideas, and I know we now have to be up to 70% with that new House bill, but we'll have more information moving forward.
So I don't know if the bill says we have to be at 70%, but if we're not, we're going to be talking about it a lot. I think that's actually how it's written. But Director Royston, we really appreciate it. I know it's been like herding cats. We've had a lot of people get promoted and retired in the last year. Obviously, you've been working on that, and you've been able to bring up the new people up to speed very, very quickly. I know that you've, gone out, thought outside the box. You've talked to other jurisdictions to see how they're getting their numbers where they are, and to try and bring their best practices here, and we really appreciate that. And as our discussion earlier, it looks like we really need to step it up if we're going to even keep status quo on kids in detention. We really need to any kid that would be eligible for this, we need to make sure that they're getting at that bite at the apple. So thank you for everything you've done.
You're welcome.
Is there an estimated time period where you might bring back the proposal to this group or
Hopefully, next month or the month after.
Okay, so next month's executive committee, which we will be meeting, and then after that, Chairperson Hammersley will be scheduling the meeting. So I would ask that the incoming chair that we keep this on the agenda until the issue is resolved. Okay, moving on to the Juvenile Mentoring and Support Program. Pastor James.
The program has just gone tremendously well. I'm super excited about the number of children that we're able to save, young people that we're able to service. We've seen remarkable turnarounds. We've seen great buy-in from Hillsborough County Public Schools and other groups who are excited to partner with us. We're gearing up for summer. As you know, summer is the time where numbers go up, and the data proves that, and so we're ramping up for summer now, preparing to host 125 plus young people for the summer. So keep us in your thoughts. That's my report.
Thank you very much, and I know that my staff really looks forward to continuing to work with you and problem solving and making you experts at receiving and reporting on government funding. So, good. I'm glad to hear that. I'll put that in our performance evaluation. Okay, moving on to DJJ general updates. Other than the House bill.
Right.
other than that. Well, the only other update that I have right now is approximate census, and Major Cohen is with us today for secure detention of 61 youth. That was just yesterday, I believe. And currently we have 14 youth that are on electronic monitoring. We have approximately 12 youth that are committed pending placement from Hillsborough County. And currently we have vacancies posted, and we are in the interview process for juvenile probation officers.
So I have a question. Does anyone else have a question on her data? My question is this: with the commitment kids, I know that we've had some lags in getting kids to their commitment programs in the last couple of years, and DJJ Tallahassee has done some work to kind of expedite that and bringing on new providers and that sort of thing. Can you tell us what the average length of wait is for our circuit?
No, I cannot tell you the average length specifically for a circuit statewide. That's what the information that we're being given right now. And that can be 40 to 60, 80 days. It really is dependent upon the youth's needs. If it's substance abuse treatment, mental health treatment, sex offender treatment, it's going to determine what their placement is, and also the time of their placement, and also their risk level for commitment. We have a higher population for moderate risk, so they have reconfigured one of our A program that I'm aware of to fit the needs of more moderate risk youth to get to move placement for those youth. So statewide, we have many kids that are pending placement, and I really don't have an estimated time of departure. So as far as the courts may want a specific child to go to their placement faster than anybody else, jump to the top of the list, but actually that's not possible since statewide we have youth that may have been waiting longer to go to that placement, and so we'll place them based upon that availability, and that's what we're working through at this point.
Well, I think 40 to 80 days is still somewhat less than it was a year and a half, 2 years ago. I think it was going 90 to 100 days at the time. So that's some progress.
We are starting to see some momentum in our circuit, and currently we're reviewing, I don't know, Ryan, Assistant Chief Ag, 5 or 6 that they're looking at to move. So when we talk about it having approximately 14 kids, 12 youth committed, so it is making some momentum. Those that have been there the longest is what we're looking at placing right now.
Any other questions for Chief Hammersley?
How many beds do we currently have statewide? And is there any talk about those increasing? Did you mention that?
No, I do not have off the top of my head the knowledge of the exact number of beds that we have. And yes, they are looking at securing more providers for residential services.
Last conference in Orlando in October of last year, I remember the secretary presenting some data on that, so I'll see if I can dig that up in my office and send it out to the group. Commitment, providers, number of beds, et cetera. Of course, it's a few months old now, but I think that would help answer your questions.
It may. Good morning, everyone. First of all, I would like to say that prevention will remain the same. We will still be supportive of the CABs and most definitely supportive of Chief in any direction the department goes. So you won't get rid of me that fast. But also I'd like to mention to Pastor Dance that I was supposed to get with you in terms of sending some information from the One Mentor Child conference that we had. So please remind me to make sure that I pass that on to you. As for prevention, we are going through a reorg. There are some minor changes that will come about. My role will basically stay the same, doing a little bit more site visits. We hope to presume doing our gaps, which is gaining appreciations by adjusting perspectives. We hope to get back to that because at one point it took a pause. So hopefully we'll be able to kind of start that up July 1st. Two things that I would like to also mention is that We have our youth summit that will be coming up, which would be July 18th. I'll send some information. If you have some youth that would like to attend, we most definitely would love to have them. It's going to be in Orlando. I'll send some more information and a flyer out. In addition to that, we also will be doing what we call Prevention Talks. And Prevention Talks is a vehicle that Prevention will be using basically to kind of get out and actually inform the community of our mentoring initiative. And so we're hoping to launch that out here in Tampa on July 31st. More information to come. I'm looking for a site that will hold maybe 50 to 100 people. We have not really determined the time, whether or not if it's going to be in the morning or if it's going to be later on when most folks get off from work. Those are some details that we're still working out. And that's pretty much all that I have, unless someone has some questions for me.
I think last time we talked about your gap that Chairperson Brancato also wanted you to link up with Pastor Dames about potentially partnering on that as well. Pastor Dames, can Allen Temple seat 100 people?
Thank you.
Thank you for your report. We appreciate it. Moving on to detention. Major?
Good morning. Okay, detention, at Hillsborough Detention, we're an 80-bed facility. Last month our average was about 70 youth. Our current pop today is 52. Committed youth 20. And vacancies, we're currently at 22. We have got really flexible with interviewing. We are offering morning and afternoon interviewing right now. And special programs that we have going on right now, we have, of course, testing, statewide testing. All the youth are being tested Monday through Thursday. We have our instructor Wright that conducts 1-hour tutoring sessions on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Any extra instruction in any certain area that a youth would like in, also including GED, ACT, and SAT prep. And last Sunday we did a Mother's Day program with the youth, just allowing them to write Mother's Day cards and have a presentation for their mothers when they came for visitation. Specialized training right now, we have our administrative team through the months of May through June are participating in supervising for success, fundamentals of coaching, interviewing do's and don'ts, real colors for leaders, and conflict management. And as far as projects, we had 3 of our educational portables have been completely remodeled over. It's been over a year now, but the project is complete and will be moving in on May the 28th. That's all I have.
Okay, do we have any questions for the major? I have a couple questions. You said you have 20 committed youth out of the current population?
For those youth are 14 for us, and then the 6 of them are from out of county.
Okay, that was my question.
Yeah.
Is how many from out of circuit?
Yeah, more of a north region. Yeah.
Okay. And then secondly, when we met with the secretary a couple months ago, he talked about some of his legislative funding priorities. Do you know if the funding for the new detention facility made it through the legislature?
Yes, it did.
And was it the full amount that the secretary had asked for?
Yes.
Okay, very good. So that means we'll be getting a new detention facility in the next 2 to 3 years.
Yes, sir.
Which is awesome. Anyone that's been over to detention knows that, what's the term they use in real estate? It's rustic. So I know that myself, I know that the commissioner, were very supportive of kids having a nice, clean, safe place to go while they're awaiting their proceedings. So good news.
Thank you for that.
It's nice to have some good news today. Okay, moving on to civil citations. Director Royston.
Okay, civil citations, soon to be called delinquency citations as of July 1st. So for the month of April, we had 57 referrals, 38 were from the community and 19 from schools. Dominant charge being battery. We had 19 referrals, and battery domestic violence with 16 referrals. And for the previous year, we have 57 referrals this year, and for April of 2023, we had 64 referrals. Any questions?
So if the county pays for it, can we call it anything we want? That's not clear in the statute. A remedy coming up, so thank you for that, Director Roseman. Okay, next item is SINSFINS.
Good morning again, everyone. First, I'm going to talk about the ITN that is now posted for the Florida Network will be applying for through DJJ. That was previously taken down, and so we are extended our contract through December right now. So that increase in funding is not something that we're going to see until we are renewed, which hopefully is in January. So that will continue to operate business as usual until that new ITN is accepted. Last month, we had 331 bed days for SINS kids and 85 days for DV kids currently in our population. And I will say in the last 45 days, we have seen another uptick in DV kids. Currently have 6 DV kids and 1 civil citation, delinquency citation youth. That's going to confuse all of us for a little bit. In shelter, and then I have 6 SINS kids and 1 truancy court ordered kid. We have our last truancy court on Monday, so I don't anticipate seeing truancy kiddos until the fall, if we see any at all. And that's all I have. Oh, lastly, our community counseling is going to be offering groups in rec centers this summer, so we're super excited about them being out in the community and offering some support to kids while they're in summer camp at our, how many locations are we? 6 Hillsborough County rec center locations. That's all I got.
Any questions for SINSFINS? Okay, just some, oh, go ahead, Pam.
Is there a flyer or something that we can know about, like when those groups are, where those groups are, or how to refer?
Yeah.
Okay, great, thanks.
So thank you for that report. Great news that we're using DV respite. I don't know why we're using more DV respite now. I don't know what's going on, but I'm glad that we have that clinical pathway for those youth. So thank you for everything you're doing in regards to that. And as a reminder, that's something that this group came up with, that solution to a very specific issue. We're only diverting familial domestic violence, not interpersonal violence, boyfriend, girlfriend stuff. And it's working well. It's working well, so thank you. I know that you guys are pursuing a basic care grant again this year. Do you want to talk a little bit about that and what it might be able to bring to the table?
Sure, we're, and it's almost like you were with us. We are reviewing our application for Basic Center. So we're looking to open some beds for kids experiencing homelessness. So hopefully those are funds that we are able to receive, and then we can work with our partners at THHI to ensuring kids that are on the streets can have a safe place, and then hopefully transition to long-term housing options. But that is our,
and that
it is residential only, is our intent.
That is great news and a needed resource. Last year we had over 2,000 unhoused individuals in Hillsborough County, and that goes by the federal definition. The school district says we have a lot more that are couch surfing and living in other places that they ought not be living. But we also had some recent state legislation, specifically House Committee Substitute for House Bill 1365, titled Unauthorized Public Camping and Public Sleeping, which is going to create somewhat of a burden for the system. Basically, the new law says that homeless individuals and families can't sleep on government properties, so county, city, etc. So It also provides a civil remedy for local property owners, citizens to sue cities and counties if they do let homeless individuals, like a homeless family sleeping in a car at Children's Services or at County Center, would be prohibited from doing that. So it means they're probably going to be trespassed, and we'll probably have some families with kids that are at risk. So, you know, it would be useful to get that basic center grant now. It would be helpful.
Yeah, and just to a little bit more clarity, we're looking to use our safe place locations as places to connect to those families that might need resources. So we currently have 191, and our efforts are to increase those so that there are places that they can go if there is someone they need to call to find shelter for the youth specifically. And
do you have a sense, I know you've been going over the data as you put your proposal together, how many unaccompanied youth versus how many are still with their families, living in cars, that sort of thing? I know you have some estimates.
Yeah, and the number of unaccompanied youth in the most recent reports is actually really low. I think it was 2 unaccompanied youth, but the number of youth living in unsafe housing did increase this year. I don't have those specific numbers, but I am happy to provide those to you because those reports did just come out for our community.
Right. The Tampa Hillsborough Homeless Initiative will be issuing their point-in-time count, I believe, in the next month or 2. So we'll have better actionable data. Any other questions for Children's Services? Okay. Don't think we have any old business that we haven't covered. So let's go on to, we already talked about new business in HB 1425. Our next item is our presentation from the Arts Conservatory for Teens. We have staff and the executive director. If you could come up and speak into the microphone and introduce yourself, please.
Well, thank you. I'm Alex Harris, and the co-founder for the Arts Conservatory for Teens, and I'm going to say you can take one and pass it, please. The first, I'm going to show this video, and then I will proceed with the presentation, and thanks to the chair in his absence and Mr. Parkinson's and all of you for this opportunity to share with you.
My name is Kashif Hames. I'm 15 years old, and I go to Tarpon Springs High School. Challenges I overcome in my neighborhood are drugs, violence, and peer pressure, and ACT has showed me I didn't have to live that way. How I got introduced to ACT is the team leader at Charles Park Recreation, Miss Pola. She gave me a flyer and told me to go home and talk with my mom. And me and my mom came out to the first meeting, and Mr. Murphy gave me a thorough description of what ACT is and what can I gain from being in ACT. I always enjoyed learning, but my behavior has always hindered me from that. And ever since I joined ACT, my behavior has improved, and I'm grateful for that. ACT has put me in a situation that I really couldn't get from anywhere else by letting me experience things and exposing me to positive things that I wasn't getting exposed to. A couple of my opportunities ACT has exposed me to is put me in situations where I was able to communicate with community leaders and business leaders and have intimate conversations with them about how they stay consistent with their goals and dreams. When my mom saw me get honored by the mayor, she was happy and filled with joy because she saw the change I have came through since I've been in ACT. Recently being a part of Dream for America stage play, I was able to explore my creative side and able to enrich my community on history. And with being in ACT, that's one thing I love about it because I'm able to explore my creative side and my intellectual side. 3 things I learned from ACT is self-motivation is key. I also learned how to manage my money correctly and be responsible of my actions. Things I appreciate about ACT are I'm able to be surrounded by a lot of male role models that think highly of me. And I'm able to uplift my peers to do better in life. And I'm able to have a safe place that I can share my problems and goals at. You just gotta think on the good things that happen in your life, because one thing I learned is in your failure and in your struggles, there's always ingredients for success. advice that I would give to someone my age that's experiencing a troubled time is always take full control over your mind and action and find an organization like ACT, because personally ACT has helped me change how I think and how I behave throughout life.
Today. That video you just saw is like Kashif Haynes. He's now an alum, but before he came, as he briefly highlighted, he was getting a referral every day, no exaggeration. Brilliant student, opportunity to go to the north part of the county, to one of the magnet schools, but had very little hope and accessibility to something that can tap into that part of him to create that hope that he can not get a referral every day, but go from a referral every day to 0 referrals within the 6-month period. But I must say, when he first started, and his mother was apparently was looking for an immediate change, and she know how much he was enjoying the Arts Conservatory, and she was huffing and puffing and said, I'm gonna pull him out of ACT because he just won't do right. He's getting a referral every day. Not only was that, he was engaged, as he said, where there were gangs in his community, in his neighborhood rather, and he was at that age, and we were kind of the last stop of determination of which direction he would go. I asked his mother and a minister from her church, I said, if you would give us at least 1 year, and if nothing changes, of course, you do obviously what you need to do as a mother. I said, but please consider my offer. And after an hour of conversation with her, she acquiesced and said, okay, 1 year. And as I aforementioned, within 6 months, we saw the complete turnaround. Kashif is just one of many stories that we've seen happen time and time again. We started on the south side of St. Petersburg on 22nd Street at the historic Royal Theater back in 2009, piloting this for 3 years. And in 2012, we officially launched with a 501c3 to make a huge difference, starting with 30 students. And since 2012, we have impacted through the various services over 14,000 students. I'm one of 8 children, 5 boys, 3 girls, coming from a small town with little accessibility. And this was very, very important for me as one who came from a small town, but also as an African-American male who understands the importance of that kind of role model. The arts opened so many doors for my siblings and me, and has taken me around the world, and I dare not forget that and start to give back along the way. This is what we've been doing, and over the past 3 years, we've started to make our way across the bridge, realizing that students all over our entire local region could utilize this accessibility of high-quality programming as an intervention prevention. What my focus has been is how we can create an environment of hope, and that's what ACT is about. Because if you show me someone without hope, I'll show you someone that's filling more of our detention centers. What we've been able to do with not just African-American students, but all young people who, whether it's dealing with an opioid crisis, or students who are dealing with depression, or dealing with a lack of self-esteem, or dealing with a lack of direction, we've been able to create an environment where that self-discovery happens, where those individuals, our young minds, are empowered through the educational experiences that we expose them through the various services. And so in our presentation here, we are now not only throughout Pinellas County in partnership with Pinellas County Schools, but we also have partnered with some of the city rec centers, was also Chief Holloway and his team in the St. Petersburg Police Department. We are currently in conversation with the Sheriff Department of Pinellas. We see what it can do for a community. We have now partnered in Ybor City in Hillsborough County with the Dream Center, and with also Academy Prep Tampa and Cristo Rey. and we are in conversations with various other school principals. We were just in conversation also with the Sulphur Springs neighborhood of Promise in regards to how we can partner to ensure that our students are getting accessibility to the quality services that we have been able to create with our team. So our mission is to educate, empower, and enrich the lives of our young people to foster healthy, productive, and responsible citizens, as I have shown with the video with Kashif, through arts for healthier communities. And why do we exist? Because there are various nonprofit organizations there that are doing amazing things. One of the things that we have used is the arts as a catalyst to create equitable access for all youth and teens 11 to 18 years old, reduce crime through our process, reduce attrition, and increase high school graduation. That was one of my focuses with working with all of our high school students when I came and started this in 2009 as a pilot, is to really focus that students are graduating with a diploma and not a certificate of completion. We have 100% to date of our students who've come through our program graduate with a diploma, and 90% of those students have gone into higher education institutions, and those who chose not to, we've exposed them to internships and apprenticeships that they are becoming productive citizens. We create, why we exist is to create an environment that cultivates a hope conscious, as I mentioned, creates an environment that stimulates a creative consciousness. Too often that creative consciousness in all of us, it goes dormant. Someone tell us not to dream after we've been dreaming of what we can be, whether they say it directly or indirectly. We try to create that environment where that stimulation never goes away, because in that, I think, is where we can find the morale in our classrooms as well as outside the classrooms as well. Students get excited about learning because they are utilizing their whole self, and it's not being challenged to just utilize partial. And one of the other things that we're really excited about is creating and cultivating resilience with students. They've learned that resilience because they've discovered these tools to help them overcome so many of the challenges, regardless of the circumstances that they're born into. That's not their ending. I've told students before to look in the mirror and see who you are, and know that every label that's been tagged on you, regardless of what zip code you live in, regardless of your street name, that does not define who you are. And because we've been able to do that with our team, we've seen this tremendous trajectory of hope in our communities that we have been involved with. As I aforementioned, that shows that, and I'm going to wrap up to leave more time for questions or clarifying questions, but I do want to highlight some of our data that we've been collecting since 2017, which is another focus of mine, working with the head of research at Howard University, Dr. Bruce Jones. One of the things that we wanted to ensure that we are evaluating our programming, but also creating a platform for further research can take place for with colleges and universities who are interested in learning how can holistic youth development, utilizing the arts as a catalyst, really creates a trajectory at a 180-degree turn. And we are super excited about what we are finding out based on our evaluations with our students, our parents, our principals, and other support staff at our schools that we work with in the community. 78% of students responded that they love the arts more because of what we're doing fostering. 66 said they've improved their communication skills. 63% said they're excited about learning more. 91% said they're interested in even going to school because of their involvement with what we're doing with them. And 72% said they're feeling more confident in their schoolwork because of their involvement with what we're doing with our program. So these are some of our 19 partners that we have. So we know the power of partnership, and that's the reason why we're here today, to share with you what has happened, what is happening, and our vision to continue to expand to reach more students in the coming years, that we continue to see these numbers go down with how many students are getting in our justice system, because I think that we can do more intervention with them by intervening other than getting into the systems. So I want to now leave it for any questions or comments with regards to our presentation, and thank you so much.
First, a hand for Dr. Harris. Great presentation.
Thank you.
And I have a few questions, but I'm going to go ahead and open it up to the group first. So any questions for Dr. Harris?
Yes.
Go ahead, I yield.
Okay, so do you meet at the schools? I noticed you had like Tyrone on there. Do you meet at the schools? Because the thing that we find the most is transportation issues, getting to whatever facility. And secondly, do you require parental involvement in this? Because a lot of our families do not have that aspect. So
yes, great questions, and the challenges are the same across the bridge as well. So we do go to the schools and we provide services before school, because one of the things that the cases that we presented to the school board in Pinellas was that there were a lot of students before school hanging out, and that's a great time to get in a lot of trouble, to start the bullying, and so on and so forth, to create the cliques and so on. And so we have been able to go in there and introduce students to something if they were not involved in any other club. And so we are on the campuses, but we are also at rec centers providing that accessibility in the neighborhoods where they are, to reduce the transportation issue. We have been able to, thanks to the county commissioners, through a grant we received a couple years ago, to get some transportation support. Of course, it doesn't resolve all of the transportation issues with the number of students that we reach. So we've gotten really creative to be in the backyard where they can walk to this space to provide that. We've partnered with some of our faith-based organizations as well to send our team in those places also. So that has helped to overcome some of our transportation issues. And parental involvement is required of us. We've been able to get creative and create bonding dinners, is something that we did and has been very, very, very well embraced, to take the burden of wondering at least once or a month in some places and once every other month in others, to one night what you're going to make for dinner, and to be able to have the students to come and see, sit with their parents and bring back the whole idea of family around the table, and whether it's a guardian, grandmother, uncle or aunt, but we want that attention, because we found also is that, that's the reason why some of the students, they're not seen. So if we can let them know we see you doing something positive as opposed to giving them attention when they're doing something negative, I think then we have been able to experience positive results in that process.
Any other questions from the group?
Yes, I was gonna say, I know you say you're in Ybor City. We are too, so if you need any assistance with that, we'll be happy to. And also with transportation, I'd be happy to talk to you about transportation if you need.
Oh, wow, that's awesome. Thank you.
Some help facilitating with transportation. I think we might be able to help accommodate with that. The last question I have is, so the camp that I mentioned earlier that we have is a STEAM camp, which of course is STEM plus arts.
Right.
And so it'll be helpful if you have some mentors or something that can come in and help do some arts projects with our camp.
Sure. Yeah, we should talk. You have my number, I think. So yeah, please, yeah.
Yeah, Ed Pastor James has a nicely sized church with ample parking in a
yes,
very desirable area.
Yes, for sure. You were going to, yeah. Yeah, so it varies. As I aforementioned, just to clarify, we are before school, so sometimes that is whenever that school campus starts. I think middle school, they start like 9:20 or something. So we're usually there between 8 and 9, 9:15 when we do our impact rallies, which is our version of Tony Robbins events. Not the walking on the rocks, though. But there are empowering events. And then we do it during schools, like at the Academy Prep, some of the charter schools. And then after school, we start some programming at 4, and for the high school students, for different reasons, and the project starts at 6. So it's different times depending on what group, what workshop the parents sign their student up for, their child up for, and that's what we do.
And Ms. McGee has a question as well.
I just mainly just have a comment. I know Mr. Harris. But I just want to say that I cover, of course, Pinellas County as well, and it's an excellent and amazing, impactful program. And I'm super excited that you have expanded it over to the Hillsborough County.
Thank you.
And I see that you're also working in Manatee and Sarasota.
Yes.
I
yes.
will be more than happy to pass your information to my cohort over in that area that
awesome.
covers. Is it to kind of help and assist in any way that we can in getting you out there a little bit more?
Well, thank you. I appreciate it so much. We look forward to the introductions. Anyone.
And Dr. Harris, I am just blown away by these outcomes you have, especially
Yes.
the educational achievement.
Yes.
And 90% go on to college. That is extremely impressive. I have to say, in my career, I've spent a lot of money on a lot less in terms of outcomes. So that is very, very impressive.
Yes, well, thank you.
Now, in Hillsborough County, we have a historical agency, University Area Community Development Center, that has implemented the Prodigy program, which is an expressive arts program, which has also done some amazing things.
Right.
And I think everyone was survived COVID in different ways, but they developed a mobile platform for that, and they're in various communities. But there's some things that you guys do that they do not do, which I think certainly brings some added value for our target population. Also, their funding was reduced this year by the legislature. So as their funding has been reduced, having you guys be able to come in and kind of offset some of the gaps, I think would certainly help our community. I know that you've been really successful in generating funding and charitable giving in your community in Pinellas.
Right.
Have you started on that pursuit here in Hillsborough yet? Or?
We have we have, and there's a lot of work to be done over here to do that. We have big visions, because not only I did not highlight the fact that beyond the programmatic component around building self-esteem, but we have a laser focus on the creative workforce. For those of you that may or may not know, if you do, this is ECHO, and if you don't, this is great education moment. 3.15% of our GDP comes from the creative workforce, more than the construction, more than forestry, more than agriculture. So there's an opportunity in our area to, in this local region, to really lead the country in creating opportunity for a large incubator and accelerator for the creative workforce. That's your job, not just on the stage, under the spotlight like Beyonce and Taylor Swift, but all the jobs behind the scenes, the audio engineering, the lighting design, the management, and a plethora of jobs. And these are well-paying jobs. How I know? I'm in the entertainment industry. In fact, we're in conversations with some of the institutions, because there is an opportunity to not let our communities down, but to lead in the acceleration at higher level learning in these spaces, regardless if they're going for 4-year, 2-year, or just going for a certificate. They can get really great training, and here's an opportunity that has been sitting right at our back doors. It's billions of dollars, over $900 billion to the U.S. Economy, according to the 2019 report by the NEA. So we have an opportunity. Nashville isn't leading, even though they have a lot going there, but they aren't being branded as the largest incubator or accelerator. We have this opportunity here in this area to do that. Atlanta's not doing it, Miami's not doing it, New York. They have a lot, but they're not been branded and focused and say, we're going to take this under our wings and create that opportunity for healthier communities. Because we know we are happier and happy when we hear the music and see the theater, but not just what's being seen from the audience to the front of the stage, but what's making that happen and making us happy are those creative technology folks in the back and in the studio, in front of the house engineers and sound monitor engineers, and all the tech folks who are making this happen, both with film, with visual arts, etc. So we have a great opportunity, and that's what we're letting our philanthropists, our partners know in government, that we have an opportunity to really make great change and lead really big in the country in this space right now. And so I'm grateful that you've allotted time for us to share this, and and hope that we find ways to partner.
Thank you very much. And everyone has your materials and your information if they want to call you directly.
Yes.
You've also already made some linkages here during the meeting. I'm sure they'll want to talk to you after the meeting. But if we could be of any further assistance, if you need connections, I know Ms. Jada Clark with
Yes.
our county liaison section was instrumental in linking
Yes.
you with us. And again, very impressed. I can see you working with several partners to expand your footprint here. And, you know, I think the school district would be wise to look at what added value you can bring as well. So thank you so much for everything you've done, and I look forward to everything you're going to do for us.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you all.
Okay, I'm going to open it up to public comment. Is there anyone in the public that would like to speak? Okay, are there any community announcements from members or the community?
Yes, we have our Character GPS summer camps that we've done each year. We provide them for free for at-risk kids, and our focus has primarily been 8th graders preparing for high school, because that's where kids either get off to a good start or they don't. We still have a few seats left in our camps in June, and again, we make it totally free for those families. We provide lunch as well. Chick-fil-A and McDonald's have been donators that we find kids like that kind of food. So if you know of anyone that could take advantage of that, we still have a few seats left.
Thank you. And how did you fare during this legislative session? Are you still funded?
We are, yeah.
Very good. Very good. Okay, any other public announcements? Okay, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Move motion to adjourn.
By Pastor Dames, and a second?
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, everyone have a wonderful weekend, and thank you for a great meeting.